Note that all appointed members are present. And we still have two different classifications of board vacancies that are empty, 2 unlimited journey persons and 3 public members. The 2 unlimited are actually union personnel that we're looking for. And I know there's a couple of names in the governor's office, but they seem to be very involved with the COVID deal right now, the budget and everything else. We'll wait and see. Everybody's received a copy of the minutes, I trust, and has had a chance to review them and look at them. Does anybody have any questions or comments? If I'll take a motion for corrections.
Do we have to do these individual, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have referenced the first one I was doing was the November 13th minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from November 13th, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
And Chris said aye, okay.
Aye.
Okay. So we have one sustained, the next job, Mr. John Usa.
Thank you.
Okay, Karen?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. The next would be the February 1st minutes. Same situation. Everybody's had a chance to look at those, I trust. I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second, anywhere?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor of accepting the minutes as presented? Raise your hands.
Aye.
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 Any abstentions? I believe John Usa and Chris Brown were not at that meeting. Am I correct? That's February 1st.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're abstaining, Chris? Okay, you're muted, but I saw your hand.
Abstain.
Watch Paul's coffee cup. And John, you also are, I assume, are abstaining because you were out?
If that is the meeting, there's one of them that I missed there in February, and if that is the one, then fine.
Yeah, you were having some technical difficulties.
Fortunately, they've been resolved.
Great, that's super. Okay, so much for the minutes. Comments or concerns of anyone present today? I believe Karen, we have two people out there at least. Yep. Let's see, Howard Osden can Howard hear me?
Can you hear us, Howard?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, you have anything you want to
Happy
add?
Friday, y'all. Happy Friday.
Yeah, okay.
Happy Friday.
Well, I'll go along with that one. You have no other comments,
Find
Howard?
the groundhog. If you find the groundhog, hit him.
Okay. Okay, you're all set, Howard?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Sal, Senator Tempo?
Yes, I'm here.
Sal, are you here for anything on the agenda?
No, I'm just to observe, that's all.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
No problem. Okay. Nobody else seems to be out there as a attendee or public, so we'll go next to the DCP investigation division, the report. I believe everybody's received that under separate cover. and hopefully have had a chance to review that. Speaking on behalf of the department, is that going to be Janita, Pamela?
We're both in attendance here. Pamela Brown, Director of Investigations for the record. Janita Hamill, Supervising Special Investigator, will be presenting the report.
Hey, thank you. Let me get my magnifying glass out here so I can read it.
Mr. Chairman, because it's PDF, if you go to the top, you can hit the arrow or the plus signs and it will blow it up.
I know, but I had to say that, Janita, you know that.
I know, but if you hit the plus signs, it does blow it up.
No,
And, all right.
it's Friday.
Hey.
I'm in a good mood. It's Friday, so.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. Hey, did you send Paul and Mr. Brown those coffee mugs?
No,
Oh, okay. Cute idea, though.
I'm thinking about getting them for all my meetings.
Good idea. What you have in front of you is the November 1st, 2020 through the end of the year, the 2-month span, the December 31st, 2020 electrical board report for you, where we had 9 new cases come in, and that the department closed 7 files during that time. And on the file spreadsheet, you will see the results of those investigations on there.
Yep.
So if anyone has any questions, please let me know.
Yeah, I do. I'll start it off. I had a couple of them.
Sure.
The first one, which is case 2018-21.
All right, hang on. I've got to scroll over. Yep.
Okay, I see that a civil penalty of $1,000 was issued. I don't have any issue with that at this point. But my question is, if we go down to this next 2 down, which is 2019-54.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that one was a $4,000 civil penalty.
There were unlicensed people who worked for the gentleman on the site,
Okay,
and he's from out of state too. And it took the inspector quite a bit of time to get a response back from this gentleman and to get the file worked.
okay. But my question actually will go back to the first item, first one I had there, where it appears that, and that's 2018-21,
Mm-hmm.
where the nature was unlicensed, working beyond the scope, working with expired license and workmanship. Were all of those found to be true or not really?
No, and that's why it would be $1,000 fine. What happens is with some of the complaints that come in, people will throw the book at a person that they dealt with that they think violated every known law in the state of Connecticut, whether it applies or not. And they also incorrectly think that we're going to get them money back. So they feel if they tell us that they did this, they did that, they did this, they did that, and they want money for pain and suffering or whatever, the only thing at the end of the day that we can find is, did they work with beyond the scope? Were they acting as a contractor, or were they sent there by someone and they, or did they really, did they do the work? Did they do a side job? And a lot of times we have to educate people that you can't do a side job. You're only a journey person. You need to be an E1, or if they're doing low voltage work, as in with Mr. Eustace's case, they're out there moonlighting as alarm installers. Guess what? You need to have the L5 contractor, the C5 contractor, or the E1. So,
All right, that explains it. I assumed that it was something along those lines, but I just wanted to
oh, yeah.
confirm
Mr.
it.
Chairman, Director Pamela Brown again, just to further explain, your original question was asking about all of the allegations. So we do have upfront a list of allegations that we'll receive, which is under the case nature.
Yes,
But then the resolution, the found issues is how the case wrapped up. So that's the first column is going to be the allegations, and then the resolution or found issues is what the investigator, as Janita said, there's a book that's thrown, but what the investigator drilled down to and actually found as a violation.
I totally understand that, Pam, too. But when I look at this report, I don't know that when you drill down, it was only one of the 4 violations, alleged violations.
Yeah, I think in this one, I don't believe there was, I'm looking at the actual case file, so I don't think there was something typed in the found issues. Janita, do you see that on the report?
The report doesn't pull up the found issues, but we can definitely mention that to IT to see if that would be something that they could pull in.
Because under resolution, the manual type is dispute of facts, civil matter. Is that on the report?
That doesn't show up on the report
Okay.
because
so
it's
those are-
not one, it was not one of the items that IT pulled into the report.
Okay, so we'll have to tweak that one.
Mm-hmm.
It is just as a thought, a suggestion. First off, the explanation is adequate without having to go to IT, I guess. In my opinion, to create another column or what have you. But under resolution or resolution notes, could a note be put in there at that point that only one violation found, or in this case?
Actually, resolution notes is required, and that's why I was looking at it. It is required by all staff to enter something in there. Perhaps in this case, it wasn't.
Okay,
So that inspector is no longer here, so I wouldn't go back to him and say, hey, fix this. But in the future, I'm sure that we'll take care of that.
yeah, okay. That would help just eliminate the question, actually. So,
Sure.
Sure. Without a doubt, Mr. Chairman, I can definitely ask my staff to bone up their resolution notes to indicate how many violations were found or not found.
how many are just the violation? Either way, but that worked.
Yeah, that's something that's required. And periodically I will go through, we have a report that's called resolution notes. And I will send it to my entire staff. If they have missing resolution notes, they have to go back in and fix it. So I haven't had a chance to do that. I try to do it once per quarter. So we're moving up in March next month, that report goes out.
Okay, great. Yes, Paul?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Quick question. When they show up on a report like this with a fine against them, will that reflect on the e-licensing website?
It's as far as on their license, Mr. Costello?
Yeah. So I was just looking at, the individual that we're just speaking about.
The assurances of voluntary compliance and the fines will go to close the complaint side. The fines will show up on their fees paid on the license. So, but it will not show on the license itself.
Okay.
It shows up in the fees.
The case file is attached to the credential. So if someone wanted to, from the public, see the history of complaints, this will stay with their credential, but how they paid it and how much they paid will stay, as Janita said, on their credential, which is under our fees column, is something that we see internally.
Okay. Yeah. So what I was looking at the individual that with the $4,000 fine on the credential information. It just shows that the status is active. It won't show that there were any previous violations or citations issued?
No, you would have to look into on the complaint side to see that.
But we don't have access to that from the
You
public.
don't have access to that, no. So someone who wanted to make an inquiry can simply email the department under Freedom of Information, and then we would supply the copies of any complaint that is attached to that credential. So
Okay,
it's public record.
gotcha. So the public wouldn't see that unless they specifically ask for information.
Right, they'll call in or email in, does this contractor have any complaints against them? What's the status of their license? And then we respond back with electronic copies of complaints and, maybe a screenshot of their license, but there are certain information, of course, that's protective, such as date of birth and social security number.
If I can just
Thank you.
go along, add something to what Paul's saying. I'm just thinking from a consumer standpoint, they look up a contractor or journey, whatever they look up. There's nothing there to indicate that there is any type of complaint whatsoever. So they would have to call in and ask if there's any complaints. Is there any way down the road here that when you look up that credential, that a person could see maybe just an asterisk somewhere with existing complaints at that, and then people would say, "Oh, this guy's got complaints. I could at least call in."
Yeah, we've had this question before us many times, and I know the commissioner doesn't like to post. I don't want to speak for her. Her feelings is, the complaints are allegations. Just because we have a complaint on file doesn't mean it's a found issue. So I think that might be something, Larry, that you might want to bring up in the MOU meeting. I believe it's scheduled for Monday.
Yes, it is.
Yes, that may be something you can put forth before the commissioner on Monday.
Yeah, will you be attending that?
Yes.
Okay, so you can, I have you remind me in case I forget, yeah. I mean, the reason I say that about when somebody looks up, I mean, we do tell everybody, go to the website, look up the person's name and what have you, and see if there's any problems, if there's been any history with this person. And everybody they look up would be no problem. They
Yeah, I
would,
think Janita can give you a good example of one that she's been working very hard to get it cleared. It was I'm talking about the Windsor case. Janita, would you want to explain that one? How that's actually a complaint on someone's record that the person is no longer holding the credential and was not involved in the actual work on the property. They were acting in their professional
Sure,
capacity, but the complaint was filed against them as an individual.
sure. Mr. Chairman and board members, what Director Brown is referring to is one of my building official counterparts in Windsor, acting in his professional capacity as the building official, received the permit, approved the roofing work for the lady's neighbor, who the permit and the contractor were properly home improvement contractor registered, got his permit, did the roofing, was inspected to code and closed. Then with some storm, ice storm, snowstorm, whatever that we had, apparently chunk of ice or something slid off the gentleman's house and hit apparently the lady's siding, and she wants damages paid and whatever. She didn't hire the contractor. She didn't pay the contractor and filed a complaint against the building official, who in the past was a registered contractor, but had absolutely nothing to do with the installation, wasn't hired by her, and is a building official acting in his proper capacity. The complaint center has received and closed it, no jurisdiction, non-issue, none found against the building official. The lady has since filed 3 more complaints against this poor guy for the same thing, indicating that he's responsible and he's a building official. He had nothing to do with it. He didn't do the work. And here's a case of a gentleman who's at his wit's end, begging me to make it stop. And, you know, he's been unfortunately accused of something he had nothing to do with, other than he's a building official and he didn't do it as a contractor, and had retired his contractor registration when he became a building official. So this is kind of like a situation where I can't speak for the commissioner, I can't speak for the agency, but I think Director Brown is right in that when we're at that MOU commissioner board chair meeting on Monday, it might be a good thing to discuss then.
Yeah.
In this example, which Janita just explained, here's someone who's acting in his professional capacity, but now has his credentials that he used to hold under his personal name. There are complaints and they have nothing to do with him as an individual. But this is why, you know, in some cases, a complaint doesn't always mean what it is. A case file, I should say, against someone doesn't always mean they did something wrong. So.
Yeah, I think that Windsor situation is kind of an unusual one. It's very interesting now. But I would think that realizing and knowing that he certainly was not working in that capacity, he was actually working in his official capacity, just issuing a permit and doing an inspection. That within the department, obviously, could not mark that on his credential screen. At the same time, I think we'll talk about it at the commissioners meeting. I understand that problem, but I think the department has the opportunity to either tag it or not tag it. So I guess what I'm saying, the license.
Sure, that would be again up to the commissioner and also IT to see if they have that capability. But of course, we don't make those decisions.
Yep, no, I get it. That's fine.
That's above our coffee mug.
What coffee mug?
Well, you got a paper cup? I have one other question on this report, and I gotta find it now. Here it is. Here. It's the 2020-319. It's the second from the bottom of the report. I guess the nature was unlicensed. It was not being unlicensed. Yeah, we have an E2 license for this person, and they ended up paying doing a ABC and $1,000 fine. If they had a license, why would there be a ABC and a fine? You follow what I'm saying?
It's entire, well, because I'm on this screen, and if I leave this screen that we're discussing, I'm afraid that I'm going to kick myself out of the Zoom meeting.
Can you just give me, what's the case file number again? I can look it up.
2020-319.
2020-319.
Yep.
It's entirely possible that it's sent in claiming that they're unlicensed, and they will send the name to the complaint center, and then in looking up that person, we find that they actually did have a journey person license or a contractor license, or, you know, in the heating and cooling versus plumbing, they're only a plumber. They didn't have the heating license. So the license didn't get attached until the investigation was done. So that's a possibility too, and that it might be a working beyond the scope issue.
Yeah, because because it's obviously during the investigation, they come up with the license number. And if it's strictly a license complaint, then, and the person does have a license, then there shouldn't be any action other than closing the case.
It's in,
Let's see what Pam comes up with.
Yeah, there's a related case, so I have to shoot over to the related case.
Okay, all right, that may explain part of it right there.
And I apologize, there's a lot of notes here, so if there's another one, you might want to jump ahead with that.
No, that's the other one. That's it for me.
All right, it's
This,
a download that I'm getting buffering right now.
I'll give it a minute for you.
There's a notation, first offense. There are two, it looks like two, if I'm reading this correctly, two violations here. Building permit. And yes, first offense, I see first offense unlicensed. It was said that they were using unlicensed workers.
But was this person, if is that the case, was this person acting as the person on case 319? Was he working as a contractor?
Yeah, well, I'm flipping over to the notes now. It's just, there's a lot here, so it's downloading kind of a little slowly. So there is an unlicensed employee here. Attorney involvement, there's a lot of dialogue back and forth. Looks like an apprentice card issue. There's tons of notes here.
I'll tell you what, Pam. Since it's part of another case, and obviously there's a lot going on with that. Why don't we let you just send the board an email later,
Sure.
just to what the findings were, and then we can move on, and then Karen can just attach that as part of the minutes for today.
Will do.
Normally I'd say let's just do it the next meeting, but our next meeting's,
We'll be happy to. There are like 20 entries here, so trying to read them all, it's gonna
Yeah.
take some time. So that's probably better.
yeah, the next meeting is not till May, and by then we'll all be COVID free anyway. I hope. So, okay, so we'll wait to hear something from you later on that one. Okay, anybody else have anything, or did I kill that report now? None, okay. All right, Janita and Pam, thank you for the report though, and thanks for all the answers you have provided on that. It cleared up some things.
no, not a problem, and I will work with the inspectors to make sure that the resolution notes are beefed up.
Okay, that would be great.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Actually,
Okay, actually,
if they needed, I just looked at the report here, column L. Period,
Yeah.
period. Oh, yeah, never mind. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say you could eliminate that if you needed some room, but that's okay. Yeah. I think we can put the notes in the resolution. It'll be helpful.
Okay,
Okay.
without a doubt.
All right. Thank you very much, Janita.
You're quite welcome, Mr. Chairman.
All right, moving on to old business. Item number 1, continued discussion regarding potential changes to regulations and statutes. None of those bullet items are we going to address specifically here today individually, but we are going to, and actually those could be, Karen, those could probably be eliminated at this point because we're going to go right to the individual task force, which is addressing some of these things.
Okay,
And
sounds good.
we will, we'll get some report from the task force. I will tell you that the continued education task force did meet. The review of license qualification task force met. Statutes and regulation task force, we have not met yet. And that's strictly because I've been involved in too many other things with the legislative stuff going on right now and what have you, but we will undoubtedly get a report between now and our next meeting in May. With that being said, let's take the continued education task force first. I know there's more stuff there to discuss. Everybody in both should have received some draft suggestions on each of these task forces we'll deal with today. And we'll start with the continued education task force. The intent here was that all task forces would review the statutes and regulations as applicable to particular items, come back to the board with recommendations and suggestions to those statutes or regulations that they reviewed. The board would listen to those, and then we would vote if we are in agreement with it. Then we would be entertaining a motion to move these recommendations over to the commissioner for not only the commissioner's review, but her staff's review and comments, and work with Commissioner and or whoever she appoints to it to get these items changed, if you will. Some of these items probably none of these will happen in this current legislative session, I would guess. Some regulatory stuff might be able to happen a little bit down the road, but we'll do it as fast as we can, if on whatever we agree to. So with that being said, Rich Bird and Paul Costello is on the continued education task force, along with myself, but I'm going to allow them to give the report. And with that, who wants to speak first on the continued education?
I will go first there, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and before you start, Rich, I just want to make sure everybody's got a copy that we sent out so you can follow along. Okay, good. All right, thanks. Thank you, Rich.
No problem. Under the first one, under section B, under course approval, one of the things that we looked at was to clarify some of the formal filing information that was needed with the time frame, as well as the what each course would be submitting on in a orderly indexed fashion. And you can see there through items A through O, what we have clarified as far as that goes. We did break out a few items under that. The first one was the application itself, the fire marshal's approval. These are all been previously recorded. But one of the things was to clarify the copy of the certificate, as well as any of the advertisements and policies which have always been submitted on. So it's just kind of a way to formally get that into the regulations and offer the application. Did I correct that? That's a correct statement there, Mr. Costello? You agree?
I do. And as you mentioned, it allows now more for electronic means of submittal for the application itself. Recognizing that it's not just a paper copy, but the thumb drives in addition to maybe a Dropbox if the files are larger and not being able to email them, taking that into consideration. But yeah, I do agree.
Which is how we've reviewed the current year and upcoming or past year, I guess, 2020 and now 2021 is how we're reviewing through the electronic means because we can't get together due to COVID. I'd just like to add that some of these items that were added in here are the results of some history over the years where it wasn't necessarily clear what could or couldn't be done, such as, Rich, you're going to go through some more of this, or Paul, but such as you couldn't have a class in a contractor's office, okay? That was always the understanding. It's the understanding we always had from the beginning. However, legal said, no, it's not published that way, so you can't say it. So we wanted to get that stuff clarified because that's a concern, of course. Sorry to interrupt you, Rich, but I just want to add that stuff in there.
Yep, no, and that's exactly what, clarifications from past history, moving up with the times, like you had mentioned earlier and Paul had mentioned earlier about the electronic filing, which we've been doing now for at least a year now, the previous year and this continuing year here on the filings. Also under section C, starting on line 63, primarily looking at line 70, it'd be C2, adding some language in here for a virtual online live virtual interactive class in here, which is what we have been doing during this COVID time, due to the pandemic. The other portion of it is to limit the number of attendees per instructor to get that better quality education and that better transfer of material and information out to each of the attendees. So with that being said, we do make the recommendation to limit the in-person to 50 attendees per instructor, and the online virtual interactive classes limited to 25 attendees per instructor. Also clarified in there that there is no sharing of any electronic devices allowed per attendee per class. Every attendee must be on their own computer, tablet, so that we can have visual contact with every participant in that particular class. We also did put in here a statement to add that providers that are approved for the online virtual interactive classes must offer at least 6 in-person classes for that renewal year as well. So it's just not limited to in-person or online classes only. It would be, a combination of both delivery methods. Paul, was there anything that you wanted to add on that point?
And I agree. And really the intent was to steer away from a canned presentation so that we maintain that virtual live if for some reason the extension does expand to online training in the future beyond the pandemic time. Unlike what some of us might be familiar with, some of the OSHA classes that are offered online where anyone could really be sitting in front of the computer taking the class. It'll just maintain that credibility and delivery method. I agree. And then as well as the number of classes per year at a minimum, 6 in-person classes. So this way here, someone just doesn't develop an online course, making sure that they offer both if they elect to offer virtual classes, and also realizing those providers that do in-person classes, we're not tying their hands where they have to offer online classes as well. But really the intent has always been to deliver it in person. So by adding the minimum amount, that'll maintain that continuity with it. And then third bullet down, sale of consumption and alcoholic beverages.
Paul, can I interrupt you for a moment? Nope.
Sure.
Before, I just want to go back to 2 where we're talking about the online, just to clarify for everybody, that online live virtual class is only when it's approved by the commissioner and the appropriate occupational board. We want to make sure people don't think that we're going to be going virtual online from here out. It's not the case. It's only when approved by the commissioner and the board. And actually, obviously, it's approved by the commissioner, it'll be coming down from the governor, unless somewhere down the line, legislative people make a change. But at least we have this in the regs. Hopefully now, and if they entertain that, we'll be able to get this to them. That's all. Just to clarify it, because it's not that we're suggesting that you go online.
Right. And to your point, Lara, that'll give the board the criteria to set. So it's just not being handed to us if that is the case.
Right.
That was the intent there. Thank you.
Yep.
3, sale of consumption, alcoholic beverages, illegal drugs. Obviously, that's something that was written in. It's always been an unwritten policy expressed by the board, but this way here it'll be in there. And then Larry alluded to number 4 earlier, talking about where the places of classes will be held. We did put in there that it defines that it cannot be at a contractor's place of business or facility. It doesn't preclude them from doing it in other venues. We had discussions, the Connecticut VOTEC system, the schools, larger facilities like a Pratt and Whitney, provided that the classes are still open to the public and they're not closed classes. It's not the intent to hold a closed class. They still do have to meet that requirement. Anything else on that one, Rich?
Nope, I think that's good clarification on that one. Yep.
Okay. Following page, line 92 is more editorial. Codes, standards, and amendments to the state building codes. And then we go to page 4 under advertising, line 8, 146. Again, the intent is for providers that are going to advertise a course that it is specific to the Connecticut course, can't be bundled into other courses that are unrelated to it. And as far as records, 164 shall include but not limited to attendance verification at the beginning and end of class. So we've always had the requirements that we have to maintain our certificates. In addition to, we also need to keep track of the sign-in sheets if there's audits down the road. And on the last page, 175 was just a grammar correction. I believe that covers all the suggestions that the task group looked at.
Okay. I would like to personally thank both Paul and Rich for the time they put into this. I know they met it well. We all met there for a number of times and went through this, and really appreciate the effort, and hopefully this helps clarify a lot of things relative to continued education. With that being said, I just want to ask the board members if they have any input on any of these comments that were brought up at this point. Mr. Jennings.
Yeah, it looks great. I like it. The only thing I'm thinking is just where it says the 50 attendees per instructor and the 25 per instructor. Maybe we should just change that to qualified instructor so that we don't have one licensed person and then they have a helper come in. So my thought is just, just quantify it per qualified instructor, just so we don't, honestly, we don't have to keep the honest people honest, but we know the programs who will,
The only reason I don't know that we need to change that is because the instructor is defined in the regulations up front.
Right. And I did see that, but that would, again, that's just my thought on it, just so that it's, because yeah, I did see where we said that the instructor has to be licensed. And, they have to submit the number of the names, address, and license number and qualifications of each instructor.
Right.
So that was just my thought.
Okay, I mean, we certainly can add that in there. It's not gonna hurt anything. 50 attendees per qualified.
Guess I gotta hold my my cup up to myself. Sorry, Larry, I was gonna, maybe, to Peter's point, maybe approved might meet that intent.
I think I'm going to agree with Paul on that. I think a better way to word that would be approved instructor.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You raise a good point though, Peter.
That's a very good point, Pete.
I'll make that a change to approved if everybody's in agreement with that. Okay. Okay. Okay, anything else? Please, you guys only messed up on one word.
Gotta leave something for somebody to find.
There you go. Okay, then would there be a motion for a recommendation to forward this to the commissioner for her review and her staff's for implementation?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Was that John, a second?
Yes.
No, John used a second, okay. Any discussion? Further discussion? No. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Raise your hand. Okay, any opposed? The motion carries with unanimous approval. I will forward this to the commissioner next couple of days, I guess. And with an explanation of why we're looking to do this. So once again, I thank that task force. I've also asked that task force to look into possibility of the way we're doing our curriculums, in developing our curriculums, and we'll meet again on that. And we may, what I'm getting at is we may want to establish the curriculum specific content and provide it to the provider. Okay, as opposed to cover sections, chapter such and such through chapter such and such of the NEC, what have you. And it would be a good opportunity to do that because for this upcoming year, being 2022, I'm thinking now, okay, because the code is not going to be accepted, the new code, until probably 2022, right, Paul?
Yeah, that's what we're looking at now.
Okay, and we've actually been able to go through the entire code book finally, cover to cover. And I would love to hear from anybody including everybody that's out there right now, like Sal, send me an email. But relative to content, I would like, myself, I'm thinking from a real trade aspect of it, possibly spending a lot of time on calculations, understanding and drilling into everybody's head the difference between grounding and bonding. Some of those key things that they seem to get confused on at times. But that'll be up to the task force to come up with some thoughts on that if we want to do that. But it would be a good opportunity to probably do that, as opposed to going back into the book anywhere if we're trying to do anything else. So, okay. So task force is not dismissed. Again, I thank you all for all your efforts, and we will continue that. We'll probably have a report at our May meeting from the task force. Continued education.
Larry?
Yeah, Mr. Hobart.
Years ago, we always thought at some point, maybe it could be done by way of an email to all the building officials in the state, asking them what's the most common electrical problems they find in the field when they're performing an inspection. And maybe that will give us some guidance as to areas that we should have continuing education on. And, you know, they'll come from all different aspects, because some are building officials that have to check every occupation, and some are specific electrical inspectors. But having said that, you know, it'd be good to know from them, what do they think are the most common electrical code violations that they find when they inspect a premise? And just do a mass email to the building officials, the Department of Public, well, they're not Department of Public Safety anymore. That the Department of Administrative Services State Building Officials Office has for a listing, and just see if we get any thoughts back from them. You know, give them some credit as far as what do they see, and we might be surprised that it might be some real stupid things, but for some reason they find them. You know.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's drilling and notching. You know, things like that. You know, we don't know. It could be like how electrical wiring affects other trades that electricians don't look out for, you know?
Yeah. I think it's a great idea, Rich. That must be an old thought.
Easy. It wasn't 36 years ago when I started, but you know,
Yeah.
it was always in my mind.
I knew it had to be an old thought because I didn't remember it.
So it was when Pantagrassi was on the board, I think.
Okay. Remember him.
Yep.
So. All right. No, that's good. Good information, Rich. And so noted. And I think we will do. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I didn't know if you want to draft something as the board chairperson, and Karen can put it in a better format, and then they could ask upstairs. Well, they're not upstairs in my house, but they're upstairs at the office, at the state building official's office, if they could just send it out for us.
Yep. We can do that. Absolutely. No, I think that's great. I'll write something up and then work with Karen on it, and then we'll get it out that way.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for volunteering, Karen, by the way.
I was gonna say your format is gonna be better than mine anytime. So,
No.
you know, I'll leave it up to you.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move on here. The next task force we're going to hear from is the License Qualification Task Force, which you received the package of Chapter 393. And although it's a fairly substantial packet, as we all know, there weren't probably as many changes to that as the continued ed. But with that, Peter Jennings and Chris Brown worked together on that. And let's have whoever's going to start first, whether it's Peter or Chris. And let's reference the line numbers on the document because I know we get through quite a few pages before we get to some of these.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will begin. Our first change that we looked at was on line 70 through 72.
Yep.
So if you're there, it's 2A, equivalent experience and training, means experience and training required to qualify for examination for such license within this chapter or regulations under this chapter.
And how'd that come about?
Well, the thought process is that we needed to somehow define the equivalent word, the word equivalent within the definitions. So we wanted to find something that would equal what an apprentice would have to go through within the current program in order to obtain their license. So we wanted to make sure that it was actually equivalent. So hopefully that wording will accomplish that goal.
Okay. I think that's good. That's important.
So I'm sorry, this is a little bit foreign to me. So how do you determine that it's equivalent? Or, I mean, since I'm still new to this board, is there an outline, or do you guys have that standard in place, or is that part of the curriculum that we're going to be developing?
What typically happens, Jackie, and why we're looking to define this is because the working group from the board, all the boards actually, when we review applications with the department, usually the chairperson for the board and the and Todd Bertram, Department of Labor Apprenticeship and Training, we're looking at applications, and a lot of times you get people that say, well, everything's equivalent. You know, I got a license in Wyoming. It's electrical license.
Okay.
And we're saying as well, yeah, but that license you got out in Wyoming is in your terms and in their terms a license. However, in our terms, it's not a license. Okay. You need to take a test to get a license. You need to go through an apprenticeship program to do a license. So it just adds more support to the chapter 393, provides support for the application reviews, and eliminates a little bit of the questions that are raised sometimes about equivalent. Okay.
So do we say that the equivalent is defined by so many hours of training, passing an examination, you know, is that outlined? And I'm sorry if this is a stupid question. I just was trying to.
No, and that's exactly what this really says.
Okay.
Experience and training required to qualify for examination for such license within this chapter.
Okay.
So that makes you look into the chapter and say, okay, what do I have to do for license? Boom. So many hours of training, so many hours of related instruction.
Okay. Thank you.
For different license categories.
Larry,
Okay.
may I chime in also? It's John.
Yeah, sure, John. Absolutely.
I think this has been one of the things that comes across our desk for a lot of things in the past, that what was the equivalency. And we get many people coming in from out of state. We get many people coming in with 10 or 12 different licenses. And in every state, there's no consistency. And I think at this point, it's long overdue that we came up with something in writing to what the equivalent experience would be, that anybody, we could say, you know, here it is. Do you have it? Yes or no?
Yeah, exactly. And I can give you an example. I can give you an example of things we see when we look at some of these applications. Sometimes the application is one page, the application, no backup, okay? But sometimes, most of the times, it's got some backup to it. Most of the time, the people do not have an OSHA 30 as we require here for our people to have. Okay, so we require them to take an OSHA 30. They may have all valid credentials other than that, but they still need to get an OSHA 30. That's just one example, and this helps establish that. And as you said, history kind of is what pushed this equivalent definition.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
no problem, Jackie. Rich?
Larry,
Yes.
if we go back to that, I mean, hang on here, I'm reading. So on 70 through 72, the lines that
Yes.
we're looking at,
Yep.
it probably should read, shouldn't it say for such license within this chapter or its regulations, period? I think it would read better.
Okay, so it should say equivalent training, equivalent experience and training means experience and training required to qualify for examination for such license within this chapter or regulation, period.
Right.
Yes.
Because we're already saying within this chapter, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that must have been a cut and paste problem by the looks of it.
And then just to
I'm gonna
elaborate on
have
that.
to talk to the person that typed that up.
And then just to elaborate, now that the term equivalent experience and training is here, then we're going to make all the changes in the regulations to expound upon what's required to get each license type. And I don't know what happened to my draft that I did, but remember I sent one on the holiday,
Yep.
but I don't know what happened to it.
This is the one you said on the holidays. During our meeting, you were kind enough to do that.
Yes.
No, but hang on a minute. No, but this is the statute. I also did one for the regs.
Oh, yes, we have to do one for what regs. In that regard, I was going to leave that up to discussions with the commissioner in legal, that they make sure that from the statutes, it follows through to the regulations.
All right, and just so that Jackie knows and whoever else, I know we're jumping here, but
That's
working
okay.
on what we just read of the equivalent experience and training, just so everybody knows, eventually we're going to get down in this document to line 774
Yeah,
and 778,
yeah,
and that's where we already started to elaborate
yes,
what equivalent experience and training is.
yeah. Okay,
So
Good.
it'll I'm just letting everybody know it'll come together as we read down.
right.
Maybe I'm the only one confused, but I just started saying.
No, I mean, we're if you're not sure, or if Jackie's not sure, anybody else isn't sure, then that's the purpose to review them again, you know? Sometimes we're just too close to it when we're doing it, and you don't see the problem, or the repeat even, you know, such as was pointed out just now. Okay, no problem. Chris?
Yes.
Feel free to move on. Sorry about that, but no, it's good. That's good interchange.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the next change that we have is under section 20-334A, the types of licenses.
What
And you'll
line
see
number?
that line number 752.
Yep, thank you.
1A, an unlimited contractor's license may be issued to a person who provides proof that they have served as a working journey person or journeyman in the trade, for which such person seeks a license for not less than 2 years, and if such service as a journeyman was outside this state, has furnished evidence satisfactory to the appropriate state board or the department that such service is comparable to similar service in this state, or has furnished satisfactory evidence of education and experience, and has passed an examination for trade knowledge in business and law, which has demonstrated that such person is competent in all aspects of such trade to be an unlimited contractor, and has passed a business and law course as prescribed by the appropriate occupational licensing board.
And Chris, the history that prompted those changes.
So there was many people who were becoming E1s without having really gained any experience in the trade. So if you looked at the number of licenses, I believe we looked at the number of E2s and E1s And we saw that there was around 8,900 E2 licenses and 8,400 E1 licenses. And we were well aware that people are just becoming E1s, holding their journeyman's license for just 2 calendar years and not doing any more continuing education as far as the business law aspect of the trade to gain any more knowledge. So we felt that by adding those requirements in there, we're going to get a better contractor out of this.
Right.
Anything to add, Peter?
Yeah, Rich?
I wonder on line 57, I mean, I know it starts off how to get an unlimited contractor's license, but then it explains you have to show proof you're a working journeyman in the trade, and you have to send in evidence satisfactory to the board department that it's comparable service in the state or has furnished satisfactory evidence of education experience. And it should say, and has passed an examination for trade knowledge, and such person has obtained the journey person's license. Remember, we're trying to, or has passed an examination and obtained the Connecticut journey person license or something. Aren't we trying to get them to at least sit for the journeyman's exam if they claim they have journeyman experience out of state?
Well, it said, okay, I think I follow you now, yeah.
Yeah, it says has passed an examination for trade knowledge, but we got to remove and business and law because that doesn't come until has passed an examination for trade knowledge and obtained the respective journey person license, period. Then it should say an applicant, something like an applicant for a contractor's license shall show proof of 2 years journey person's experience within or out of state. It's like a second step.
What we do say is outside the state has furnished evidence satisfactory to the appropriate board. Provide served as a working journeyman. I think the first part provides proves that they have served as a working journeyman is critical to Chris's point about obtaining their journeyman's license and then not doing anything with it as far as working in the field.
Maybe we could reword that first part where it says provides proof that they have served as a working journeyman in Connecticut, or
No,
put the Connecticut part up there. Provides proof that they have.
Well, because they might be able to prove, case in point, they could provide proof that they were working journeyman in Massachusetts. Okay, and we would typically look at that and say, okay, but we were still only allowed to take the E2 test down here in Connecticut first.
Right, and that's why I was thinking just served as working journeyman in Connecticut. But, or something on having held a Connecticut license. For not
We
less.
gotta go away from held, because we gotta get the word working in there, because that's important.
Okay,
Because that's what we're fighting is the term, the idea of
Right.
hold.
no, you're right.
I think on 757 line where it says, it should say has passed an examination for trade knowledge and obtained the Connecticut journey person's license, period. Or has obtained the Connecticut journey person's license, which has demonstrated that such person is competent in all aspects of such trade to be a unlimited contractor, period. And then we should say,
And get rid of business.
upon showing proof of journey person experience of not less than 2 years within or out of state, a person can apply for the unlimited contractor license examination, which includes a trade knowledge and business and law court exam, which includes trade knowledge and business and law portions.
Okay, where are you trying to insert that, Rich? That
Well,
part?
on line, we start up at line 757, probably won't be able to say it again.
Yeah,
Has passed an examination for trade knowledge and has obtained the Connecticut journeyperson's license,
yeah,
which has demonstrated that such person is competent in all aspects of such trade to be an unlimited contractor, period.
yeah,
Such, then we could say, such person may then apply for the Connecticut contractor's license, provided they show 2 years of journey person type experience within or out of state to obtain the, and pass the trade knowledge examination for trade knowledge and business and law, period.
okay, so such person may then apply for contractor's license, right?
Provided they show journey person experience within or out of state and have passed a trade knowledge and business and law examination.
Okay, okay. So I got almost to here. Such person may then apply for contractor license, contractor license, provided they show journeyman experience in or out of the state and
Have passed the examination for trade knowledge and business and law.
or
For the, we really probably should say examine the contractor examination for trade knowledge and business and law. That way you don't turn around and say, well, I already passed the examination for trade knowledge up top, you know.
in business law. Yep,
Contractor examination for trade knowledge and business and law,
right. Yeah, and that's, I think that's important to put that in too.
because they'll all do that. They always reach back. This way you'll have all the steps. If somebody comes from out of state and they can show they qualify for the journey person's license, they can get it. If they're a licensed journey person from another jurisdiction, okay, we'll look at that. We'll look at everything, but you still have to pass our journey person examination because the multiple choice exam you took in Albuquerque doesn't work for us. And then once they pass our exam, then we can say, all right, show us you worked in the journey person experience in Albuquerque, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So we would take, we'd be scratching out on what's proposed here on line 760 and 761 in red. Those would be going by.
Right. That goes away because we kind of added it correctly above.
Yep.
And then the same verbiage should be used where it says limited contractor. And then the top half of this verbiage should be down where it says unlimited journey person and limited journey person, which I don't know where limited journey person is in this. This is clear. How come at line 774, it says 2A, an unlimited journey person's license? Oh, it's 781. It's built in. It says BA halfway, 3/4 of the way through the sentence. Yeah, for a limited journey person.
Yep. Yeah.
So that has to be adjusted too, so it's consistent.
Yeah. Well, that, and it like you say, the limited contractor's license then is picked up under B on line 761.
Right,
Which
761, right. So that should reflect almost identical verbiage of the unlimited one.
Right, well, and it says a limited contractor may be issued to a person who fulfills the requirements.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Subparagraph A, which is what we just went over. Proof of work experience. or however much it is for that limited category, 2 years or whatever the number of years for working journeyman on a limited basis as well. Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm good with that. You guys good with that? Guys and gals, sorry about that.
I
Mr.
think so.
Chairman, I have a question.
Okay.
On line 57 in the original 759, I'm sorry.
Yep.
It says has passed a business and law course. Was the intent of that task force to have them take a business and law course prior
Oh,
to
yeah.
taking their E1?
Yes, exam.
Because
Yeah.
that language has been left out in that revised version.
Right, which, wait a minute, where am I here?
Well, actually, maybe not, Rich. I'll read what Mr. Hobart suggested. Such person may apply for a contractor's license provided they show, excuse me, they show journeyman experience in or out of the state and has passed Connecticut contractor's exam for trade knowledge and business and law.
Right, but but the prerequisite, he's right, the prerequisite, Larry, is that a contractor also must take a business and law course prior. So somehow.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
A contractor applicant, it should be in the beginning of the whole scenario. The contractor applicant shall obtain a business and law course as prescribed by the appropriate occupational licensing board, then do the rest.
Yeah, so, yeah, we could say such person.
Until we see your latest draft, we can't, it's hard to insert this, so I can read it, but.
Yeah, such person. Yeah, we got to put that in there. I got you. Yeah, you're right, Mr. Bird.
Right, yeah, that was the goal, one of the goals.
Yeah, such person may apply. Okay. So we, just before we say such person, we could say an applicant.
An applicant for a contractor's license shall obtain a course certificate for an approved business law course as prescribed by the appropriate occupational licensing board.
Yep.
Maybe that's just a sentence by itself, you know?
Yeah, an applicant.
For a contractor license, this way you could use it in the limited category. Applicant for a contractor's license shall obtain a course certificate of a business and law course, completion of a course certificate of a business and law course as prescribed by the appropriate occupational licensing board.
Yep. Yeah, that's good. Good pickup. Which
Yeah, that was a good one. You thought of that.
Yeah, that was part of the intent, like you say.
Yeah, I had just read that and I just wanted to make sure if that was the intent of the task force, that should be, that language should be in there.
Yep.
Yeah, because right now it's so easy for people just to go and take their contractor exam, and we really don't know if they're any more knowledgeable or not, you know?
Right. That's the problem. Well, that's okay. Yeah, just because, you know, you think about it, they go from being a fourth-year apprentice, they take a journeyman's test, they pass the test.
They go work as a carpenter, doing home improvement work, wait 2 years, and they apply for their E1.
Yep, exactly. So they can do electrical work under their home improvement.
Right.
But just go to Craigslist. There's lots of them who volunteer to do electrical work.
Yes. All right, let's keep going then, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next change is on line 774, 2A. An unlimited journeyman's license may be issued to any person who has completed a Connecticut recognized apprenticeship program, including not less than 720 hours of school-related instruction of theory, codes, and standards as prescribed by the appropriate occupational licensing board, and including not less than 4 years, 8,000 hours of on-the-job field training experience for the trade for which such person seeks a license, and has demonstrated such person's competency to perform all services included in the trade for which license is sought by successfully completing the applicable state licensure examination. So originally, we wanted to eliminate the word bona fide, as that word is somewhat subjective and can be a little troublesome, and replaced it with Connecticut recognized apprenticeship program, because we should all really understand what is included in the Connecticut recognized apprenticeship program. But we further describe it as not less than 720 hours of the school-related instruction, and the 8,000 hours of the on-the-job field training experience. Peter, anything to add to that?
No, that's, we're just trying to make sure that, you know, the people who are coming from out of state have a recognized, have an official training program, and it's not just all included of on-the-job hours like Pennsylvania has, no specific training program in states like that. And we just want it so that our students who, whether they graduate from the tech schools, they graduate from the take courses at the IEC or at the IBEW, they have to complete a lot more education hours than someone who has taken a program from out of state.
Right.
It's trying to keep a level playing field. We shouldn't hold our students to a higher standard where we oversee their training programs, and someone from out of state, which we don't oversee, only has about half of the hours that we do.
Right. And I think the other part of it was, you know, we've heard in the past about the 576 hours and so forth, and we all agree that you need no less than 720 hours, which is what we all pretty much do in our schools out there. The other thing we got to realize is that, as it says here, related instruction, 720 hours of school-related instruction of theory, codes, and standards as prescribed by the appropriate occupational licensing board. So we need to develop or elaborate at some point on the difference between the state Connecticut recognized apprenticeship program of 576 to the 720. Follow that? Yeah. Okay. And that's I'm not gonna say simple, but it's a case of really looking at the hours that the state or federal apprenticeship program has for minimums right now, and seeing if we agree with those hours, or we want to increase them, or if there's additional items we want to add. Additional items, case in point, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think there's anything in the state registered apprenticeship program for the two trade relative to solar, wind, all the alternative energies that have come about. I don't remember seeing anything in there. Or does anybody else recall anything in there about that? Peter?
Larry, yeah, what part of the curriculum are you talking about for like the tech schools, or for the just in general?
In general, in other words, the federal / state program that Todd runs and that we recognize, I don't believe has anything in it relative to the alternative energies, just as an example. Okay. And because that hasn't been updated for so many years, and yet, we are now dealing with alternative energies. So, although our code books addresses some of it, it's just like, I know, and I don't know, Paul, maybe you've heard something about this being on codes and standards, but I understand marijuana growing facilities, believe they're coming out with, if they haven't already, a complete code relative, and I'm talking about electrically, as well as other codes, for their type of facilities and the requirements of it.
Yeah, that's coming out. You're correct. That's definitely going to be addressed. So, yeah, I'm not aware, Peter would know better as far as what was implemented recently with PV. As far as I know, nothing with wind generation.
I just emailed everybody. I found my draft reg change to come up with the 720 and what it should be, etc. I just emailed it to everybody. I thought I emailed everybody before, but maybe I only sent it to you, Larry, these are just my thoughts for the E1, E2, and of course you have to do the rest for the limited categories. But so if you take a look at that Word document, and that's taking the regs and expanding upon them is what I sent.
Right. I'm just printing a copy of it out right now.
And in there, I had put, it's just a draft, and it's my draft, so it's probably, this comes from the Connecticut regulations, and what's in red I've added, because I wanted to get rid of where it just says, or at least 6 years of experience, because that's bullshit. Because it's too vague. And then I put in alternative energy, photovoltaics and wind power, because that's what you guys were just talking about. I put in OSHA 30. And this content area outline that I came up with is actually what's on our exam. This is the content area outline that the board approved on the test to be used for the test. And this is the questions that we currently ask come out of each of these content areas. So I thought it would be good if the regulation content areas matched what we actually test people on too.
Yeah, and what's on the test, Rich, too, I don't think we cover OSHA 30, but that's something we've added. And definitely, I don't believe we have alternative energy on the test.
Right, yep. I added that specifically into right. The content area of the test doesn't have safety, it says safety information on the test. And then I added here for our purposes for the regs, OSHA 30. And then the exam has photovoltaics, and maybe it says and wind power, but I added in the beginning alternative energy because there's other things will come up,
Right. Yeah. All right.
So anyway, this is what.
Well, this task force, by the way, is also going to continue on, but that's one of the things that we would continue on, but this is going to be helpful. This will be helpful.
And I could do the same for other tasks. This is what we would do for the rest of the,
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Anyway.
Sorry,
I got you off track.
That's all right. All right.
So where we're doing 774 through 778 right now, what we're talking about.
Yeah.
The regs will expound upon it and break out what the 720 hours are, and things like this.
Yes. Yep. All right. Anybody else have anything on that section? If not, I'll let Chris continue. Or Peter, whoever's going to continue.
Chris drew the short straw.
I believe that was it for the changes, unless, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't see any more changes.
Let me see, I think there might be one. Let's double check.
Well, line 1237,
Oh, I know what it is. Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
on line 1237, you have something in red there. It says, if plaintiff is properly licensed by state, defendant city must grant him a work permit. Oh, that's not, that must just came out in red by itself. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's not ours.
No, that was part of the statute format. And of course, I sent everybody an email. Oh, you have it? Yeah, hospitals, non-industrial firm. Yeah, that's from the statute.
That's what.
I sent everybody an email about something.
I think the
Oh,
next,
on 1529, it's in
Yes.
red. It says, would like to sunset PV1, PV2 license. I don't know, that's verbiage. That's somebody added that in.
yeah, we added that on in there as a discussion point.
Yeah,
In that, because there's so few PVs, and I think Chris or Paul, one of you checked on how many were in the apprenticeship program, the PV2?
I did. It was, there's 8.
Was it 8?
8, yes.
Yeah, okay. But then, I mean, ideally, we'd like to sunset that, but it's probably gonna draw so much attention. I think it's gonna fade as it goes out anyway. So I think Rich Hurlbert's feeling too is that it'll probably just fall by the wayside by itself. So that's just a note as far as that part goes. So does anybody have a problem with not addressing the PV12 license? Just let it stay the way it is.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
it's a side note, I don't know if it applies there or not. How about the exemption for the mounting of the modules? What's the feeling with that? I look at that as electrical work as far as the grounding and bonding.
Yes, I would too.
Because currently there is an exemption that allows them to do the support, the racking of it, including the mounting of the modules. And, you know, I'm assuming that if they're mounting the modules, they're wiring the modules as well. I don't see them sending in an E or a PV license to do the wiring once they mount it. I don't know if anyone else has the same feeling.
I completely agree, Paul, because you know as well as I do that when you're mounting the panels on the roof, you're not getting underneath to wire them out also. You know, it's all happening at the same time, and that's exactly it.
I think that is actually described under the what's allowed as a PV1 or 2. If I'm not mistaken, right?
It is, I forget the number.
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'll get it for you here. It's go to line oh, of course. Let's see here. There's so many freaking exemptions here. When I started for the state, there was only 3 and then it went to 5. And now there's 16 for Christ's sake.
Oh, 1523, Rich, is where solar electric contractor and journeyman license is indicated, but
No, it's 1328.
you found it?
Employees up 1328. employees of any contractor employed by and under the direction of a properly licensed solar contractor, comma, performing work limited to the hoisting, placement, and anchoring of solar collectors, photovoltaic panels, towers, or turbines are exempt from licensure. So if you hire a contractor, if a licensed person hires a contractor to hoist, placement, and anchoring of solar collectors, photovoltaic panels, towers, or turbines, that contractor and its employees are exempt as a sub of yours. There has to be a licensed contractor involved, but that licensed contractor can sub out to unlicensed persons.
You only need one contractor for 400 employees.
Correct. But that's only, but the work is limited to hoisting, placement, and anchoring of solar collectors, photovoltaic panels, towers, or turbines.
Hoisting. So what you're saying, Paul, if you're reading this, line 1328, actually what you're saying is if you take that back, like 1330, after the word hoisting, you're saying in essence, placement and anchoring of solar collectors, photovoltaic towers should be taken out of here.
Yeah, that's my feeling. I look at it, that's covered under the National Electrical Code.
So wait a minute, so there's not so much kickback, because obviously sometimes you need physical help, which actually is already covered under the court ruling with Abington Construction that we had.
Right.
Where you can hoist
A long time
and
ago.
set into place under the direction of a licensee. But maybe you could just put in here, I mean, it reads right according to that court ruling, sort of, but maybe you just need to put in here at the end, after turbines maybe, but shall not include any grounding, bonding, or electrical connections between components, or something to that effect. I mean, it's not even really needed. The whole exemption is not even needed because of that court ruling, but and every trade uses somebody to help them lift something to the second floor, or to lift something into place. Millwrights might help an electrician just do the lifting and hoisting into place, provided there's a licensed person directing the performance of such work.
I don't know. I think maybe what Rich just said isn't too bad an idea to add that to it. Because that's really the issue we have.
See, if you took this out, you might get people saying, well, wait a minute, but if you just add to the end, shall not include any grounded or bonded or electrical connections between the components. I mean, if I put a wind tower up, you would hire a crane company and some other helicopter or whatever you got to do to get it up there, but that might just clarify it.
Yeah, no, I agree, Rich. I think it needs to remain in portion. Because I could see, to the point, we're not going to be making all these picks, especially when we get into wind turbines. That's going to be very specific.
But even panels coming down the side of a building or whatever, you might want some riggers there or some people to help you hoist or.
Correct. Yeah. No, I agree with that as well. And I think, you brought up a good point, addressing the concern of the grounding and the bonding.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where it should be clarified. It should be, shall not include any grounding, bonding, or electrical connections between any component. And if you use your word component, I mean, that could be any portion thereof. So wherever it may be,
Right.
Or or grounding, bonding, and electrical connections are required to be performed by properly licensed personnel.
Right, but I mean, you're in a chapter that says all the work has to be done by licensed people. So
Yeah,
then the exemption just says what you can't do.
Right.
If you just say
I like that.
shall not include ground and bonding or electrical connections between components, then it clarifies the exemption.
I think that's clear. Simple.
Yep.
And really what we're trying to accomplish, right?
Peter, would that address the weep clips as well?
well, and they're, well, that's exactly it, you know, I mean, that's, once we get into that and we're talking about, you know, we have, that is actually all part of the grounding and bonding,
Yeah.
which, you know, again, that's.
That is what it is.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, that's as soon as they put it on the rack, as soon as they're connecting it to the rack, that's part of the.
Yeah, that's an electrical connection at that point.
That is
That's the grounding and bonding.
Right.
With the listing on it.
Yeah.
And then I think you had mentioned something about the license. You know, the other thing I think we have to consider is adding the word apprentice in there, or you know, if that's taken too literally to mean just a license holder.
Should not include any body grounding or other connection between any components. How about after we say between any components as required by a properly licensed. No, never mind, that didn't work for me.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say, because I'm trying to say the same thing. You know, so basically we're talking about E's and PVs.
Yeah.
Apprentice or journey person contractor is the intent. Properly.
Could you use the term something to do with unlimited electrical personnel, or
You could say components which shall be performed by an unlimited license holder.
but I think that's again going where Paul's trying to eliminate where it's a license, and you wouldn't be able to have an apprentice.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I don't care. The work is being done under the direction of a properly licensed solar contractor. So that means an E1 or a PV1. And then it says the exemption is performing work limited to the hoisting, placement, and anchoring of solar collectors, photovoltaic panels, towers, or turbines. And then the additional verbiage that I suggested. And then that should take care of it. Because you're in a chapter that says all persons shall be licensed or registered as an apprentice. And this just says, okay, you unlicensed people, if you're under the direction of a properly licensed solar contractor, you can only perform, and then it explains it.
Right, but I would read this, Rich, so that I have a PV1. I send my guys out to the job. I'm not on the site, but they're mounting, they're putting all the racking in and mounting all the panels. And then I'm having an
licensed people,
electrician
you're
go
saying
back.
are too. But aren't you, but this only has to do with unlicensed people hoisting and placement. Now you're talking about the board's ruling, where the board rules. That would go in a different spot, right? Are we still on this exemption line, 1328?
Yes.
You guys jumped to the PV part. There's a PV section in here.
Yeah,
Maybe what you're saying should be under the PB section. I can't even find it right now.
I think I see what Rich Herbert's trying to get to is that you're
We do file
putting you're
search.
putting the wordage in there that they cannot do any of that under that direction of a properly licensed solar contractor. I kind of see what he's saying.
Let me search here. Where's the PB crap? Hang on. There's a section for PB. That's where you want to add what you're talking about.
20-340.
Two results.
167 deals with solar electricity work.
And where's the next one?
Wait a minute.
Really? Yeah, solar electricity work. Yeah, that's what you want. Hang on. Use to distribute work. To a point immediately inside a structure or adjacent to end use. Now that was the argument that created the board's ruling right there. That's the section, line 167, 18, definition of solar electricity work. That's where we want to add the board's ruling about that an E1 has to make the final connection, etc., to clean this up. Right, Terry?
Yep, I think that's right.
And is that where you guys are going with your conversation about putting it down below in the exemptions?
Yeah, what license, I mean, what line number was that again?
Well, it starts, so the definition of solar electricity work, which is what PBs can do, 167, 167.
Yep,
To an end use, we could put to an end use, period. Or and then we could start off a sentence saying the end use must be connected by, I'd have to go to my documents here. Let me see if I'm, hang on, I'll get it for you. Let me see if I'm still have connection here for this document. So we want the board ruling. I got it in, so hang on. I'm in the state's server now, hang on. So we want, I'll email this to everybody. Solar electric license scope of work. Let me see here. Clarification. All right, so let me email this to everybody. Electrical work board has clarified to the point of inside a structure or adjacent to end use by. All right, so let me hang on. Let me get to my email. Is that? I'm going to run away from home here. Hang on. Reply all. Well, it took me a minute to get everybody's email address here. Hang on. So I'm just going to send this. Karen's on it. Okay. So this is, I'll just call it clarification. That's all. Hang on.
mm-hmm.
And then it's the second paragraph of what I'm sending you. Is what we want to add to that definition of solar work that we're looking at.
Structure adjacent to an end use. Not permitted to connect to any existing panels.
Everybody got it? Okay.
Yeah.
So at line 170, you probably want to, you might want to add, start off by just saying capital T to a point inside a structure adjacent to end use shall mean whatever.
Well, I have a little problem with the, when we wrote this up, actually, inside any structure, I have a problem with, or adjacent to end use, because that means they could be running cable and wiring throughout a building to an end use. In other words, it might end.
Right. I mean, this is something that maybe you and Paul and Chris or whoever needs to sit down and figure out how to add to that definition of solar work so it gets this clarification correct. I mean, the PV people are licensed electricians, so we're stuck with them. So what we got to do is we just got to say this definition of solar electricity work needs to be just cleaned up as to what you want the PV people to do when it comes to solar electricity work. Maybe we need to say,
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know, do we need to, I mean, doesn't this say it?
What's that, Larry?
I mean, doesn't 18, number 18 say it though?
It says to a point immediately inside a structure or adjacent to end use.
Yeah.
Something came up because that clarification I just sent you, the board had a rule because, oh, they were going to make the connection inside the panel box saying that's the end use. Remember we went across the street?
Yeah, I remember that.
Jason Ross was there and possibly Everett Barber was there, the original writers, and they were saying, well, adjacent to end use means tied it back into the panel box, you know?
Let's see.
Anyway, so those are like two areas, that exemption we were working on, and we need to double check. Unless we go into the regs where it gives a description of what a PV can do for the limited PV license and clarify in there the scope of work under the PV.
Yeah, we don't want to have it conflicting with anything else here either.
I mean, we could leave this, I mean, we're in a, what are we in now? We're in a statute, right? Yeah, let me see. Yeah, we're in the statute now, so if you really wanted to stick, you'd have to put it in the statute.
Yeah, let's probably terminate it.
Huh?
Well, what you just faxed, emailed over to us, the second paragraph, second sentence.
Right.
Says they are limited to properly terminating the wiring through junction box or control of theirs that is not in any way connected to the building's existing electrical system or utility meter. Isn't that the key right there?
Well, yeah, but we gotta word it we gotta word it differently than that. So say
Well,
the same thing, but word it better, or
Well, that's not in any way connected to the building's existing electrical system or utility meter.
yeah.
That's what we're asking for here. Am I right?
Yep.
So after we said under the definition of solar electricity, where it says inside any structure or adjacent to any end use, can we not pick it up with that and say after that, that is not in any way connected to the building's existing electrical system or utility meter?
Yes. And then I would go to,
Would that address you, Paul? Does Paul?
Yeah, I'm
but
not quite
it
sure.
doesn't address Paul's issue 100%. Paul's up
Yeah.
on the roof also.
Yeah, to be honest, I wasn't as, I don't know if there is a problem here that I'm aware of. I don't know if it's just accepted in the industry that they can't enter our equipment. Peter, do you know, are you familiar with the interconnect? Do you see the problem or misinterpretation of it?
Well, originally I did, when the first solar, because I've done, I don't know how many hundreds of solar inspections for Green Bank.
Right.
There were a lot of them where the guys with the PVs were going in and just, I mean, I've seen where they've taken service entrance conductors after the meter and spliced them in junction box outside and then, made the connection that way. I think this cleared it up a lot with that part, the clarification on it. And then plus there aren't that many, but there are, I will tell you, I do know of a couple of contractors who act like they have their E1s. There's a couple of them out there.
Mhm.
So, oh no, I'm licensed there. Yeah, my license says I can do that.
In general, most of the inspections that you've seen in the past, are they permits taken out by the PV contractor or the electrical contractor?
It's a combination of both. And most of the PV contractors now have an in-staff E1. There's a couple of them out there who farm all their work out to the cheapest bidder. So what they do is they take it, and then whoever's the cheapest guy, they just have their guy go, or some of them, the E will go and pull the permit for the job.
Yeah.
To me, I think, I mean, this is what Rich sent over to us. That was a determination that the board made quite a few years ago. And I think the key point of it is just that area, that it's not in any way connected to the building's existing electrical system or utility meter. And I think if we added that at the end of number 18, that helps. That helps identify the fact that, well, no.
Wait a minute, Larry, if you go to an end use period,
Yeah.
then put in what we want, an unlimited electrical contractor shall, and do your verbiage.
Say that once more after the word use. Well,
Adjacent to end use, period.
yeah.
And then put down an unlimited electrical contractor is required for that verbiage you have. Let me see if I have it here.
Yeah.
Unlimited electrical contractor is required for connection to the building's existing electrical system or utility meter.
Okay, so yeah, okay, so after that, we could say, we end it with a period. An unlimited electrical contractor is required to connect to the building's existing electrical system or meter.
Yep. Well, now we still have to go down to the exemption to fit in what Paul's looking for about, but go down to the exemption. This is good for here.
Yeah, we're gonna go back to.
I guess we have to go back down to the exemption to clarify that people are only there to just merely to hoist, and assist in the placement, period, not do all the interconnections. So, I mean, even if we just add in the verbiage I came up with, that will probably help it for the exemption.
Yeah, well, about, you mean about the shall not include any bonding, et cetera,
Right, and you bonding, grounding, or electrical
connections
connections
between any components.
between any component.
And then we just further clarified that an unlimited contractor is required to do and connect to any building components.
Well, you don't have to add that in the exemption, though.
No, I say back under
Oh,
18,
no.
we did that. So I think that ties together well.
Yeah. But do you see something else, Paul, about?
I think my biggest concern was allowing unlicensed or unregistered apprentices, whether they be PV or E, that work shall be performed under the license for the wiring and the mounting. Because I look at it, it's the mounting is the grounding and bonding. And that's
Right.
electrical work.
Right, so really, in this exempted areas here, performing work limited to the hoist and hang on, the ruling that the court had for Abington talked about words like assist in the hoisting and placement to the final resting place, something like that. I could get it for you, Abington court ruling. That might have better verbiage, and then we should be really removing anchoring. And it may the word placement might be too broad because of the way you say they clip together. So it's really someone that can assist in the hoisting
Maybe attachment.
and setting into place. Period.
Right.
Yeah, maybe the
It's
issues
hoisting
would
and
get,
setting into place. Let me get the Abington thing. Hang on here. Let me see.
Under the exception there, if we put, fastening, the word fastening there, I think that's going to address exactly what Paul was talking about there. Under the grounding and bonding portion, include the word fastening, because I know exactly where he's going with that. And I agree with him on that. Peter, your thoughts on that?
No, it's that's it. It's, as soon as they, again, the anchoring, maybe take the word anchoring out of there, but as soon as they put, that's it. As soon as they attach the panel to the rail, that's all part of the bonding system.
Yeah.
And we know that, and again, I've seen a lot of locations and a lot of guys, that's what they do. They go in, they put all the panels in, they leave it, and then the electrical crew comes up, and they even terminate in the junction box. The electrical crew comes up, takes it from that point and brings it, down the building and into the inverter. So, yeah, and they're just, it's all part of the grounding and bonding is when you put them into position, and that's done by unlicensed guys.
Yeah, if you take anchoring out of there.
It says, the Abington says material movement, handling and movement of piping materials from job site storage to the point of final assembly through the use of tools or equipment. Let me get to the board bound. The manner in which piping material is moved, stored, or otherwise handled at the job site, in many instances, important safety implications. For example, certain piping materials may require special handling to ensure its integrity and proper function once it is finally assembled and placed in service. The court finds the board distinction between offloading of materials during the delivery process. I'm going to cut and paste this to you as.
I like getting rid of the
This
word.
one's a little bit of a rough document.
Personally, I like getting rid of the word anchoring. Because that's what we're talking
The
about.
word anchoring, you want to remove or add?
Remove. Because that's what we're talking about. We're anchoring the panel.
And that's how the bonding takes place.
Right.
Right, it should be just somebody that helps to hoist.
And at the same token, though, that should be moved down to, where it says, the exception, either anchoring or fastening should be moved down there. Anchoring, fastening, grounding, and bonding. That should all be done down there.
Yeah, this Abington thing is more of hoisting to the point of final assembly, not doing the final assembly.
Yeah, right. Limited to.
And that's all that they were looking for. I just sent it to you. The one I'm sending you is, it just has a little blurb, but it's not the whole thing. I gotta find the right one, but it gives you enough verbiage. And probably on the second page document, you'll see the word start. The court finds the board distinction between offloading of materials during the delivery process and the subsequent handling of the same materials as they are brought to the point of assembly. There is a reasonable relationship to a legitimate state interest, namely public safety. And as noted earlier. Conclusions portion. So it really should just say hoisted to the point of final assembly or whatever. That's it. That's all these unlicensed people could be doing.
Placement and handling of solar collectors.
Please.
Yeah, I think it just should say limited to the hoisting and to hoisting to the point of final assembly, period. Of solar collectors, photovoltaic panels, etc. It should just say hoisting to the point of final assembly. The word placement and anchoring of solar collectors should be removed. Or placement and anchoring of those 4 words should be removed, and we should put in hoisting to the point of final assembly
Of solar.
solar contractors, collectors, photovoltaic panels, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. That would conform to a hearing, a judgment we already have gotten years ago on Abington. Right?
Yeah, that's what I just emailed you guys, but I only emailed you guys short version. It's the first Word document that came up. Let me see here.
That's right. But let's think about it. Performing work limited to the
Here,
hoisting to the point
I
of.
found a better one. Share. It went back and forth before the court numerous times, so that's why it's a good one to have. Abington originally had 4 questions about license work. All right, so here we go. The second one I'm sending you is a lot better one. It's from Westlaw. And you'll end up reading the 4 questions. You got to keep on reading it because it goes back and forth until finally the judge said they had enough. Because it ended up going before it got appealed a couple times. So anyway, it's a good thing to always have in your pocket. So the second email I sent you at Abington has the whole story behind the 4 questions that Abington asked because they wanted to use unlicensed people. I guess that had to do with the paper mill down in Montville when I went down there, and Stone Container and all those places down that way that they were working on.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah, Larry.
Would So if we change number 17 to say employees of or any contractor employed by and under the direction of a properly licensed solar contractor performing work limited to the hoisting to the point of final assembly of solar collectors, photovoltaics, panels, towers, or turbines.
That would be good because hoisting and plate.
And then say, and shall not include any bonding, grounding, or other electrical connections between components.
Yep. And also the words to the point of final assembly means they're not doing it. They're just hoisting it to the point of final assembly.
Right. Maybe just include the word mounting. Yeah, I'm trying to look at the code language as
No,
well
then
in 690.
but if you add the word mounting in there, then these unlicensed people will be mounting, which may include making connections.
No, I think to what Larry was just saying after that, shall not include.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, shall not include the mounting, grounding, and bonding. Just looking at some of the language in 690-43. So I think that's where we're addressing it in the NEC.
Yeah, should not include any mounting, bonding, grounding, or other electrical. Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
You know, and no, I agree. Let them, you know, assist us in the hoisting to the point of assembly. No problem with that. My concern really twofold: the grounding and bonding, and the connecting of the modules on the DC source side. You know, because if they're not trained in it, you know, they're going to overload that DC source circuit. You know, at what point, okay, do I go one more? You know, based on the calculations. And it's not precluding the PV license to have an apprentice train them. Maybe it'll grow the apprenticeship program. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know, I like what Rich said, and I agree, Larry, maybe by adding that additional line. So we give them the exemption here. It's not changing anything in that respect, but what it's doing is it's reinforcing where that exemption ends and the licensing continues.
Yep. Let me read it back to you. So as long as we're on the same mindset here. Employees of or any contractor employed by and under the direction of a properly licensed solar contractor performing work limited to hoisting to the point of final assembly of solar collectors, photovoltaic panels, towers, or turbines, and shall not include any mounting, bonding, grounding, or other electrical connections between any components.
Yeah, what do you think, Chris? Rich? Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, I'm sorry, Richard Bird. I'm sorry, Richard.
Sounds good to me.
I'm in agreement with you on that, Paul. Yep.
Okay.
Just like you, Paul, I was running through the code just to see how they described it as well. And I think that would cover it.
Yep. I think that word mounting is important.
Right, and that's what I was trying
really
to
one of the issues here.
Yeah, I was trying to use the right terminology, you know, because now we can reference it. And I can't recall which section in 690 talks about qualified work. It should be in the beginning, if I remember.
It is. It's is it somewhere around 10, 8, 10?
Yeah, it's got to be in the beginning.
4, 8, or 10. I was just looking at it the other day.
Yeah, 4C, you're right, qualified persons. So in the National Electrical Code, 690 general requirements under 4C, qualified person, the installation of equipment and associated wiring and interconnection shall be performed only by qualified persons. And, you know, it's a little different for us licensing, but I think that's what we can hang our hat on.
Okay,
Agreed.
all right.
You know, that's a good thought too, you know, someday, is that where we, in 393, and I have to research it, but where we talk about codes and standards and accepted trade practices, et cetera, we could put in there something to the effect that a qualified person as used in codes and standards shall mean a licensed person under this chapter.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
But
like
that comes up all the time. The code deliberately does that because every state and jurisdiction is different that adopts the code. But if we say the meaning of a qualified person within any code or standard or similar wording shall mean a person licensed under this chapter. And that's just another thought. I'm sorry.
no, that's a good point.
And it's a good point because both NFPA and the International Series of Codes both have almost the same definition for qualified persons. So I'd agree with that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And that could pertain to all the trades if we just did a nice generic section to that effect, you know, that would help everybody out.
Right.
And maybe that should be in the definitions, like we have found the definition for solar work. You know, we could add to another definition of qualified person as used within codes and standards shall mean persons properly licensed or registered under this chapter. Or similar, you know, qualified persons or similar wording in any codes or standards shall mean persons licensed or registered under this chapter. That'd be a nice definition to stick in 393.
Yes. Just Just quickly looking at the definitions for a minute, you know, numbers, line 60. If we said, does this work? I don't know. Contractor means any qualified person. Regularly, blah, 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 blah. And then, where do we say that? I don't know, maybe not.
I think you almost could put another definition in there for qualified persons and use the definition out of the National Electrical Code, because I believe this is the same in the International Series of Codes as well. It says one who has the skills and knowledge related to the construction and operation of the electrical equipment and installation and has received training and recognition and avoid the hazards involved. And that's pretty much what it states pretty much in all of them, except for that particular statement does parallel with NFPA 70E.
Yeah, that has pretty good wording in it. And we really could just take out the word electrical and just say any person licensed, because we're going to put it in this chapter, any person licensed within this chapter.
Yeah. Well, it's getting a little bit late for everybody, I think, in fairness to everybody, but you know, the statutes and regulation task force is still going to meet, like I said, and they're going to be looking at chapter 393 on a couple of other areas. And that's probably one area we could add and then bring that back to us. Because 393 is going to be broken up into a couple different sections.
And Larry and everybody, the other thorn that I've seen over the years is the definition of a contractor, where it says means any person regularly offering to the general public services of such person. The word general public, that really it should just say means that any person offering any work as defined within this chapter. Because when every time the word general public, offering to the general public services, every time people read that, offering to the general public, all the private schools and institutions and stuff, even Harvard Hospital took us to court and they lost. But they said, well, we're not the general public. You know, we're doing this work with all these unlicensed people in all the trades because we're not offering our service to the general public. We don't need a contractor. You know, and I go around robin with Yale University. In fact, I'm getting emails from them now because they changed people down there. And the person, when I told the person they had to have a contractor of record to do sprinkler work, and then they could hire F2s when they post their job posting, sprinkler journey persons. He says, well, I don't even know if we have a contractor of record. Why would we need a contractor's license? It's for our own work, you know?
Yeah.
So the word general public, I mean, it just should say means any person regularly offering any work or services under this chapter of such person or such person's employees. You know, I don't know. There's something wrong there too, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, that's another thought.
Yeah, we'll look at that. I just made a note of that for our other task force. All right. Okay, we beat that one to death. I'm glad Chris and Chris and Peter, I'm glad you only had a couple changes to make.
Larry, may I
Sorry to add to your
interject?
workload.
Glad they weren't many.
No.
Larry, this is John. May I interject?
Yeah, sure.
We haven't even addressed the low voltage contractor journey person as the L and the C and the Ts. So at some point, this discussion will probably have to continue on regarding those groups.
We
Well,
actually do have that on as part of your task force agenda.
Okay. Understood.
And of course, all the low voltage ones are going to have to be reworded in the regs, because I sent you guys my draft regs with content area outlines for E1, E2, but we're going to have to do the same thing for all the low voltage.
Right.
Hey,
Okay.
Can I ask one question, John, to you?
Yeah, go ahead.
And for everybody to hear? Would you agree that we should probably eliminate the L5, L6, T1, T2, and just have everybody pursue the C license types, which are basically combination L and Ts?
I would agree with the L and the C, but definitely not the T, as that is telephone interconnect technology, of which is a whole branch of the industry, the way it is morphed into.
You lost me on that. What was it?
Okay, the T license is basically become telephone and interconnect, and as such is a different world, even though it is low voltage, than the C and the L get into. The C and the L can work in the T area, but you would not want the Ts up into the C and the L class areas.
You don't think the Ts have enough basic electricity knowledge, et cetera, that they couldn't understand or apply the codes for fire protection or burglar or fire alarm?
Not unless they get educated well beyond what they are doing in the internet world. We can discuss this obviously in more detail than at this time, but there's a number of reasons I can elaborate later.
All right, just wondering. All right.
Okay. All right, so those proposed changes that we just beat to death and reworded, I will make those modifications. Is anybody comfortable to make the same motion that we made for the continued ed? And have the board approve what we talked about and just send it over to the commissioner? Are we comfortable with that? Peter?
I feel comfortable. I think we're all on the same thing. I think we just need to fine tune the verbiage, and that right there just takes a wordsmith to put in properly, but I think we're all on the same, we all want the same result of it, and I don't think there's any misunderstandings.
Right, and don't forget that we send it over, it's gonna go to legal, legal's gonna take and do their thing with it, and then we're gonna still look at it to make sure we don't lose the intent.
Yeah. I'll make a motion, we move it forward.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other discussion? Nobody's brave enough. Okay. Hearing none, all in favor, moving this forward? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, good. All right. Where did I put the other one? Right here. Okay, that takes care of that. Now we'll do some new business. That should be pretty quick, I hope. Yeah, Paul.
No, Mr. Chair, I was just going to ask if we could take maybe a quick 5-minute break.
Oh, sure. Didn't even think about that for some reason. Because I only have one little cup of coffee here. Yeah,
About 4.
Huh?
I had about 4.
Yeah, take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
Wondering whether I should stop the recording or leave that going. We haven't taken too many breaks since we've been doing Zoom.
I know. Why don't you stop it? You should be able to pick a break back on, right?
I would think so. I think I've only done that like once maybe since we've been doing this on Zoom, but let's see. Okay, there is a pause recording option.
Okay, perfect.
So I'm going to pause that and we will convene.
Okay. Karen, please.
There it goes. It's all set.
It says recording. Okay, yep, we're back recording. Okay. We're okay, back after that quick break. So our next item of business is coming up as new business. And that's first one is the application review working group update to be provided by designated board member. That's me. The application review working group, everybody understands that's the chairman and the usually Rich Hurlbert from the department and Todd Birch from the Department of Labor reviewing applications. We are doing those basically almost every month, sometimes a little bit sooner depending on the flow, but in the past, I want to say we've been averaging 12 or 15 applications that are clipped to review. Seems to be going well, I think. I mean, if we're not approving somebody, we're sending them back for more information, and sometimes you never hear from them again, and sometimes you do. So, but it seems to be working okay right now. We're going to bring something up at the MOU meeting tomorrow, because in situations where the department gets a single page application, there's nothing on there except the person's name and that type of thing. I want to have everybody agree that just the department can just send that back to send in more information as required. Or even in a case, if there's no OSHA 30 automatically, because the department looks through it real quick, you can spot it out, no OSHA 30, just hold it or send it back and get the OSHA 30 card. It'll help minimize some of the time we spend.
But Larry, on the missing OSHA 30 card, that's a little bit touchy because if we send it back or we indicate to them by email that they're missing the OSHA 30 card, then they're gonna argue, well, you only asked me for the OSHA 30 card. Now the working group says I need X, Y, and Z. So we're better off just to let you guys have it and you add it to your list of what's missing.
Okay, we can do that. That's true.
When they get emails from me anyway, initial email how to apply, I put right in there, all applications must include an OSHA 30 card, so before they even submit it. But if there's nothing attached, then it's easy to come up with something saying you must show proof of, school-related instruction, hands-on experience, apprenticeship completion, and any other documentation supporting your request to obtain a license, But,
Including the OSHA 30.
right, and the OSHA 30, right.
I agree. I think that's fine.
Yeah, but some of them are just wise guys to Karen, and it puts her on the spot.
Right. Which is what we want to eliminate too, but Karen knows how to handle some of those people, I think.
She does to a point, but after they email her 6 times, then she starts contacting me on Teams and starts screaming at me saying, Richard, we have to do something about this. This is getting out of hand. And of course, I don't have an answer.
I send it to Richard.
So I just listened to her, and then she said she's sorry she called me and bothered me, and that's the end of it. But I have to listen to it first.
You should never feel sorry, Karen. All right, next item of new business, extension of continued education requirements for 2020 and 2021 renewal cycles. I think everybody's up to date on that, but the new governor's order extended it to April 19th for the 2020 and also the 2021 as far as being live, virtual, interactive. So anybody have any question about that? No? Okay. Number 3, 2021 continued education provider submissions. Following have submitted them: Construction Education Center, Connecticut Electrical Training, Ballard, Carousella, Electrical Seminars, and Candel's. I know I have one that just recently came in, a low voltage to look at, and we'll try to do that today or Monday after the MOU meeting. I'm hoping to do it today because I took a quick look at it yesterday and makes reference to the certificates of insurance and fire marshal stuff. On her application page, she typed it in at the bottom and as being attached, and there's nothing attached. So.
There's also one more on that list, the IBEW that's been approved, the union that came through since then.
Right, that was approved too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it? Didn't IEC also get approved for 21? I have to
I
look.
think so, yeah, but the list that's on this agenda is just the ones that got approved between the last meeting.
Okay, all right, thank you. Good. I know there's more than that.
Oh, there's a lot more, yeah.
I looked at more of them. Okay. All right. Have we got any questions about that? Okay. Any correspondence that we have? I didn't see any attached. There is none, Karen?
No, there is not. I just didn't know if you're going to add as an agenda item the renewal form statement suggestion to change some of the language.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for reminding me of that. I believe everybody did receive that. Rich, do you want to give the history on that?
For the renewal, you mean?
Excuse me?
The verbiage for the renewal form, you mean?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's just my thought. I always get, as of a few years ago, right now we have, you know, journeyman can't work as a contractor on it. We have, I don't know, maybe all people need to be registered as apprentices. I don't know what the verbiage was for last fall's renewal. But I thought for this fall's renewal, we should maybe something like this, that, you know, no person can work without being licensed or registered. And I know it goes to license holders, but maybe the license holders can share it with somebody else, you know?
Yeah.
We have room in the renewal sheet that goes out. So that's why, you know, we might as well make use of it if they're willing to add it to the renewal form.
I don't see any reason why not.
I don't want to leave the renewal form blank. We could actually be sending out some sort of a message.
Right.
Unless people have other thoughts about what should be on the renewal form. Whether they read it or not, we don't know, but there's a space on there that we could put stuff. Is what license services says when they send out the renewal forms. They go, if you want to add any new nuances or things that have changed or whatever, let us know and we'll just put it on there, you know?
I certainly have no objection to putting that information out there for these people, because, I mean, a lot of this usually gets covered through continued education at times, but by the same token, so there's a lot of other things that they don't seem to remember,
Yeah.
like registering apprentices and so forth. So,
Well, we don't need it until probably July.
yeah.
So you guys want to think about what would be a good, you know, something good to be on every renewal form that goes out. You know, that's all. I'm just trying to make use of the space. If it's going to be left blank, that's not good either, I don't think.
No.
So,
Okay.
I mean,
We can take
you
a
know,
look.
if we were changing the date of the renewal or something like that, or if CE is going to be increased to every 6 months, you know, those be kinds of things we will put on there, you know?
Okay. All right, we can look at that. We can actually look at that in May, at our May meeting. So maybe keep this on the agenda for May, Karen.
Okay.
Or I'll put this on the agenda for May, I should say. And in the meantime, we can give some thought to that, board members. Okay. Is there anything else we're missing?
That's it. I think that's it.
Okay. Hi, Richard.
Yes.
Do we need to have this on the agenda, comments again, or second time?
Well, what one?
The last statement, comments or concerns of any person present today?
Right, you have to have it in the beginning and after you accept your minutes, and you have to have it at the end.
At the end of the meeting, okay.
Right, because whatever you talked about today, someone might have a comment at the end,
Okay,
because you didn't let anybody talk in between.
right, we don't, okay. Well, the only one here would be Howard. Howard, do you have anything wonderful you'd like to say?
Oh, he's a faker. Maybe he had to go make water.
This is where the virtual online test comes in.
Actually, I went out to get another coffee. I won't show you my cup. It's politically incorrect these days.
Well, that's probably better than. All right, did you have anything you wanted to add, Howard?
I really didn't want to open up any cans of worms, but there's a few things in my head.
Well, we can't go fishing anyway, it's too cold.
You're right. Need an ice pick, maybe. Oh, I was gonna point out, you probably know this. One of the problems with solar is that you have home improvement companies who want to offer that service. The out-of-state companies call me on the phone. They say, "Well, we do solar work. We're from California. We're from wherever." And I explained to them, you're going to need a home improvement contractor reg if you're going to offer that service to the public, but you must make it perfectly clear in all your advertising, contracts, everything else, that you aren't physically performing the work. Any electrical work is done by locally licensed electrical contractors. Because they're overlooking the fact that the statute says there's an exemption for the guys who are doing this stuff that you were talking about today, not put the hoisting, anchoring, and all this stuff. And but they're doing it at the direction of the electrician. So I told them, really, it's the electrician who's in charge here, not you as the home improvement contractor. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there, where in a contract for home improvements, the homeowner is supposed to deal directly with the contractor, not with the subcontractor, who in this case would be the electrician. It's kind of like reverse situation here. You have the electrical contractor being the sub, and the solar company being the HIC, being the contractor who's engaged in the contract. Something to think about.
Richard, I told you many years ago we should have never done this PV.
Yeah, well, it was hot to trot back then.
Yeah, I know.
Plus all the oil got shut off now. We might need it.
Yeah. That's a good point, though, Howard. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Howard?
Uh-oh.
No, I was kibbutzing with Karen behind the scenes here. What's the rationale behind limiting the online classes to 25 as opposed to 50 that you have for a live class? Do you do like a meeting like this where you have a Brady Bunch screen and you want the instructor to be able to see all 25 people who are attending all at the same time? Is that it?
Right.
That's the limitation that Zoom has then. That's how many screens they can see at once. I got you.
Yeah, we want to go up to a maximum of 25, basically.
Hang on, I'll get it.
About all I got for you.
I thought Zoom actually had more than that too, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I did a boating class last couple of nights. There were 53 people on it, and you had to go back and forth to 3 screens. It was, I don't know how the instructor did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be difficult if you had to go to 2 or 3 different screens like that. That would be extremely difficult.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody have anything else? All right, the motion to adjourn? Mitch Bird, Paul Costello, second it, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? No. All right, we'll consider our meeting adjourned at 11:56 a.m. Again, I thank everybody for their efforts on the task force. And we will be putting together the other task force and the 2 task force that reported today. Also have a little homework to do anyway, so.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
Have a great